They gutted the Voting Rights Act. They've done it. They did it. The Supreme Court has popped the cork on the champagne bottle. Basically, unlimited redistricting. They finally did it. The Supreme Court has got to change. I'm thinking of ways of saying it. I'm thinking of policies.
This is an ABC News special report.
And good morning, everyone. I'm Kira Phillips. We're coming on the air.
Flood the court? Yeah, with water.
Because the Supreme Court has just released a major decision which could have a profound impact on the midterm elections. The justices issuing a ruling on a case out of Louisiana involving the Voting Rights Act, redistricting, and whether states must end any consideration of race when redrawing congressional maps. The decision potentially reducing the influence of minority voters and minority representation in Congress.
One of the provisions of the Civil Rights Act, or the Voting Rights Act, was that when drawing congressional districts, you must ensure some degree of proportional racial representation. So in a state like, say, Louisiana, where there are a lot of black people who live there, you can't cut up your districts in such a way that black people don't have majority districts where their intentions can be felt in the candidates that they vote for. There are good things and bad things about this. The idea of specifically legally needing to racially district congressional districts is kind of weird, but the consequence of not having that is that all of the Republican trifecta red states will just cut up all the black communities within their states so that they have no power, basically.
Get right to our senior Washington correspondent, Devin Dwyer, who covers the Supreme Court for us. Devin.
Kira, this decision is 6-3, written by Justice Samuel Alito, and it's a...
Does this measurably affect red states, the ones that are maximally gerrymandered? They're no longer maximally gerrymandered. They were maximally gerrymandered to the extent of the law. Now they're going to be maximally gerrymandered. All of them are going to be all red. The cap is gone. Republican trifecta states will now cut the one blue district that they have been legally obligated to keep.
Significant decision and a setback for the landmark Voting Rights Act of 1965, which was passed to guarantee equality in how we vote, and of course addressing the systemic and historic racial discrimination, especially across the South. This decision came in a case out of Louisiana involving a court-ordered drawing addition of a second majority black district in that state because of the size of the state's population. And the Supreme Court today in this decision said that the court violated the 14th Amendment by adding, the state rather, violated the 14th Amendment by adding that district. They used race impermissibly, consciously, to add a second district to aid those voters, and they...
Do you think this would have happened if the Virginia gerrymander didn't pass? Probably not, no. The Republican side of the Supreme Court takes direct orders from the party. We know that. In all likelihood, the Republicans are fretting about the fact that their little gerrymandering project didn't work out to their favor, and for the most part, it looks like Democrats are going to benefit from it. So they ordered the Republican side of the court to basically just gut the Voting Rights Act so that they have the ability to uncork the... Yeah, here, there's a map showing what this could look like, where before they were legally obligated to maintain some degree of autonomy for majority non-white districts in accordance with the provision of the Voting Rights Act. But now the only Democratic areas in these states are going to be the deep blue city cores, and all of the other areas are going to be cut up. Why would this help Republicans more than Democrats? Because Republicans are more likely to control via a trifecta a state where you could potentially break up a Democratic district by separating the votes of black people and cracking them across majority white districts. It is less likely that a Democrat controls a state via a trifecta that has that position. That being said, this does potentially open the door to some maximal gerrymandering from the Democrats as well, but they need to commit to that. We could, what are we going for here? We're going for like 0 Republican districts in California. The democracy is basically done at this point. Democracy is basically done. Oh, you're right though. There is one good side to this. This finally might put a nail in the coffin of the much hated Congressional Black Caucus. Those disgusting dogs of Israel, those moderate, basically Republican Democrats that have been on like the furthest right you can be while being a Democrat. These 80-year-olds who will not leave their fucking seat and only stay in because they represent a congressionally like ordained district of black voters. Finally, we can be rid of them. So that's nice, I guess. Not the strongest Democrats, that's for sure. Most racist part of the Democratic Party, too. And they're all like 90. We just lost one of them, and he was crazy. What if Republicans dummy-mander? I mean, they probably will. I don't know. The thing that black pills me is this won't be enough to save the GOP. No. Dems are still going to win the midterms in a landslide, for sure. But, like, dog, the Supreme Court is gutting the Voting Rights Act. Democracy is fucking done. It's like seriously, institutionally, this country is fucked, okay? They've salted the fields. We are not getting back to a functional democracy for at least 2 generations. It's fucking over, dude. It's so over. Oh, like everything from this point forward is just incremental harm reduction and saving like some good blue states from the apocalyptic tides that are rising to consume the rest of the country. Maybe lowering like the time before the rubber band snaps back.
He said that is simply not allowed under our Constitution. Justice Samuel Alito didn't go as far as saying race can never be used in drawing these maps. That's something the court has affirmed before to comply with the Voting Rights Act, but he put a significant new limit on how courts can order states to draw their maps to be more equitable. He said that Section 2 imposes liability only when evidence supports a strong inference that the state intentionally drew its map to discriminate. So a setback for minority voters in Louisiana, and now, Kira, the impact of this decision is going to start to ripple across the country.
Let's talk about that impact.
I really don't think people are like understanding how serious this is. Republicans can now submit maps that are essentially openly racially gerrymandered. Like, they can't admit it, but they can provide maps that are clearly, deliberately racially motivated, and those are now constitutionally legal.
And bring in our legal contributor and law professor at Hofstra University, James Sample. I mean, James, this is clearly, gutting landmark legislation here.
Absolutely correct, Kira. This is a ruling that almost completely constitutionalizes a color blindness principle to the point that even race-conscious,
quote, unquote, the kind of racial blindness where you run a country club that curiously has only white members, and every time a black guy applies, you're like, no reason. That's the kind of color blindness we're talking about here.
remedies designed to remedy racial discrimination are unconstitutional under the very amendments, the 14th and 15th Amendments, that the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act were designed to make real and manifest in the country. So this is a diametrical shift in voting rights practices, a diametrical shift in the area of race and racial discrimination and the remedies for racial discrimination.
James, thanks. Let's bring in Chief White House Correspondent Mary Bruce. Now, Mary, let's just talk about what this will mean for the midterms and beyond.
Yeah, well, Kira, President Trump certainly has backed this nationwide effort to try and redraw districts ahead of the midterms to try and boost.
It's crazy how they serve for life. It's crazy that people, even Democrats, will pretend that the Supreme Court is a legitimate institution when they just... The same court overturned Roe v. Wade and a significant provision of the Voting Rights Act. Like, I don't know. It's like what Slavoj Žižek said, right? Like, I don't want to live in a country where every day we have to wake up and debate why rape is bad. You know what I mean? I guess I just want some questions to be settled. I'm not that free marketplace of idea pilled. I guess what I'm saying is like debate's great, I guess, on like the important issues where I think there should be a conversation, but I don't want to have to keep relitigating the settled conversations. But yet, somehow, we keep relitigating them. We keep going back further and further. We're undoing like everything we did in the 60s, man.
Republicans' chances. We haven't heard from the president yet about this ruling, but I suspect he certainly will have some positive comments.
What did this do to the women's vote? Nothing, because men and women all live in the same area with equal proportionality, except for Alaska, I guess.
To say about it. This is also worth noting that this announcement is coming just the morning after the president had 6 conservative Supreme Court justices on the guest list here last night for that lavish state dinner with the king. But there is no question that the president, we have seen him and other Republicans backing these efforts in many states across the country ahead of the midterms. And now, as Devin was noting, this will set off an opportunity for other states to try and follow suit. And it certainly could reduce the minority voter influence across the country going forward.
We'll be following it for sure. Mary, James, Devin, thank you all so much.
I'm going to lose my mind. Hello, Zoran. I mean, there really isn't such a thing as legitimate institution. I mean, what I mean is, to be more specific, what I mean is that when Republican politicians are partisan, they're doing their job. They're meant to be that. That's what they're elected to do. But Supreme Court justices are meant to be apolitical. They're meant to be legal experts, arbiters over the Constitution and the law as it applies to the Constitution. But obviously, that's not real life. In real life, the Supreme Court is partisan, but everyone pretends that the Supreme Court isn't. They pretend that Republican-appointed Supreme Court justices are only incidentally conservative. You know what I mean? Like, they just happen to have that legitimate interpretation of the law, as opposed to them just being servants of the Republican Party. Have the Dems responded to this? No, the Dems don't have any kind of real plan for packing the court or anything else. I think the Supreme Court and the Senate both need to go, personally. At the very least, the idea of Supreme Court appointments being for life, it's just, no, we can't do this, man. We can't do this. So me dusting off the ancient tomes of the Founding Fathers, opening to page 1 and seeing, oh, you know, actually, America must be raped 250 years from now. I'm sorry, I'm being a little bit evocative today. I'm sorry. I just don't think the country's going in a good direction. You know what's up next after this, by the way? You know what segment's up after this one? Just we can put this at the end of this segment. We can tell people in the YouTube viewership what comes after this one. The bipartisan congressional vote on condemning Hassan Piker for anti-Semitism. That's what's coming up next. So that's the political priorities thus far. We have chair of the DNC calling you a hater for wanting to know why we lost in 2024 when everyone knows why we lost in 2024. Then we have the Supreme Court announcing that we're all going to be raped to death. And then next we have that's what we have next. So that's the order that we're doing this in. Oh, you're joking, right? Nope.